Today we're talking to Geoff Tyson. He is a guitar hero. He studied from a guy called Joe Satriani, and he's one of two people that Joe Satriani has said that he's graduated from his teachings. And Joe Satriani is a famous guy in the rock and roll guitar world and has been for years. Geoff was brought up in Berkeley in California, and at that time the music scene there was buzzing. It was Metallica, Megadeth, Testament. A lot of those kind of heavier metal bands were transforming the music industry. He went into a band when he was, I think, 15 or 16. He basically has never done anything else than music. And he had a band that had a contract. They made an album. They got played on MTV, the works. And then it all collapsed. And when things couldn't have got worse, then they got a little bit worse. And he told me about all these things and then how he kind of got himself into knowing everything about production and engineering so that he could make a career of being involved in music and related things without necessarily having to be in a mega band or anything like that. And how he got into Prague. The state of rock and roll today, is it there or not? Can rock and roll and political correctness and wokeism coexist? So, it was an interesting chat, and I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys will as well. The sponsors, Alfred Jobs, alfred.cz, and in the App Store you can find jobs that are relevant to you. You don't need to browse a million other jobs, and you get them sent to you whenever a new job comes. So basically Alfred does the job for you of finding a job. Alfred.cz. In English, Czech and Slovak. And then the Oat Bar Prague. Great place with oatmeals, skyr, in-house recipe of skyr that is not available anywhere else in the country. Healthy goodies, great juices, great coffee, amazing service, always a smile, highest rating in the delivery stores here, Volt and Bolt, and high rating on Google, Facebook, anywhere. People love it, simply. So you gotta check it out, find them, and come and buy something or get it sent home or just show some love on social media. Enjoy, guys. Welcome, Geoff Tyson, to the bunker. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I had a guy yesterday called Geoff with a J, and funnily, he wrote me and asked me if we were going to see each other, and I hadn't put on my glasses, and I thought it was you, and I said, no, we're not seeing each other until that day and that day. So it's funny that I have two Geoffs, but written differently. Yours is Geoff.
That's right.
But you would say Geoff.
Yeah, Geoff, if my understanding is that is the original traditional spelling of the name Geoff, because my mother was an English literature professor. Mm-hmm. So the spelling Geoffrey, for example, the author Geoffrey Chaucer spelled it the same way as mine. So I'm an originalist. How about that?
Yeah, the real deal. So you're from California. We met here through a mutual friend in Prague. At a party, and I kind of started digging in and found out that you have at least 3 albums on Spotify, and I can find another album on YouTube, older material. And you've kind of been in rock and roll since 80?
I actually did my first recording session. It was 1985.
Wow! And
I've been on tons and tons of records, most of them out of print from, back in the 80s and 90s. But there's a few that have actually, there's a few that have actually stayed in print. And
I got one of them now from you.
Yes, I hope you enjoy it.
The latest one.
And, that's the thing about music is sometimes something connects with somebody and that you hold on to it. Other times you you do a recording session for some cash, and then you never hear the song again.
Yeah.
It just kind of happens.
But what are you? Are you a rock star?
I don't know. I suppose that's a kind of a mentality but unfortunately that's been kind of warped. For example, when I go out to a club in Prague and I see people who they act like they're rock stars, or act like how they imagine rock stars must act. They're destructive and they're drunk and they mistreat women and they're generally rude, and they think that it's an acceptable kind of a caricature that they can play. But without actually having contributed anything musically to the world. I don't know. Like when I was mixing an album in Hollywood, I guess it was 1990 or 91. And David Bowie was staying in my hotel, and I saw him in the lobby. And he's a little guy, and he had the security guard, I swear, was 3 meters tall and 2 meters wide. He was the biggest dude I've ever seen in my life, with this, wide, generous smile on his face, making eye contact with people in the lobby. So we went up to him and just said, "Fucking hell, David Bowie, big fan. It's nice to meet you." And he was this lovely guy. He sat and spoke with us for a few minutes, and he was kind, and he remembered our names at the end. And we were like, teenage schoolgirls coming out of there, like, "Oh my God, we just met David Bowie." And if you're going to call anybody a rock star, I would say David Bowie's he's a rock star. And he was a lovely guy. He wasn't rude. He wasn't trying to spit on anybody. So I do try to be like that. I try to be a gentleman. I try to be kind. I try to care about other people. I guess it's not really what you would stereotypically call a rock star, but...
But you're a musician. Can we settle for that?
Yes, absolutely. I am that.
Yeah, but and an engineer, and I mean yeah.
Well, I mean, to be a musician, unless you're an absolutely brilliant songwriter, where you can
make that one-hit wonder that pays the bills for the rest of life.
Yeah, if you can entertain the world with an acoustic guitar and your voice, great. But I mean, for the rest of us, you need to have a pretty wide array of skills. You need to be a musical renaissance man or woman. So in my case, I've learned the engineering and production as an extension of my songwriting expression.
But yeah, so you're born in San Francisco, right?
Berkeley, California, which is right across the bay from San Francisco.
Sorry, yeah. Is that an insult to say that someone is from San Francisco?
No, not at all. It's the San Francisco Bay Area.
So it's not like Oakland versus San Francisco, or
there was never any real competition. That's all from the hip hop songs, but I never felt any of that.
Okay. So yeah, Berkeley, sorry, and big family.
Kind of. My mother was originally from Egypt. She grew up in Cairo and then emigrated to the United States to go to university. Eventually, she got a PhD and started teaching at the University of California, which is where she met my father. Father's only child. My mother has extended family back in Egypt, but I only know a few of them. And so it's a huge family. I'm just not super aware of all of it.
But how is it like Egypt? Did you have some traditions that came from that side, or I mean, how did that? Was it visible somehow in your life?
Well, my mother used to take me there every summer, starting from when I was 2. So I spent 6 weeks of every year in Cairo with the immediate family, her brothers and sisters and mother. And and that whole, I mean, growing up around that, of course, it's worn off on my personality, on my understanding of music, and generally my perception of patience, as I guess you would say. The Egyptian compared to the Californian attitude is pretty polar opposite.
And
it
more relaxed.
No, they're a very conservative family. And how would you say it? They're very Egyptian. They have, they like to haggle. It's misogynistic. The man talks over the woman, even if the woman is smarter and is correct. And you're not allowed to have these opinions, even if you're correct. And being a strong-headed California guy, it really had no patience or tolerance for that kind of thing. So that was my own little rebellion as a child.
But you told me once we were talking that there was some story about that family on your mother's side, like around World War II or something, right?
Yeah, my great-grandfather was a duke on the court of the last Egyptian pharaoh, who was King Farouk. And he was deposed and then replaced by the first democratically elected president, which was President Abdel Nasser. My grandfather was a senator working with Abdel Nasser. Now, my understanding is, and I'm actually still kind of learning about this family, but my understanding is that Abdel Nasser was a socialist, and that when the royalty fell, the royal family was allied with England in a sort of a kind of a pseudo-colonial way. And when that fell and it became a socialist thing, like the British didn't like that.
No, they felt he stabbed them in the back.
Yeah. And the public in general was against the royalty. And my understanding is that when all of this was transitioning, my grandfather found out that the government was going to seize a lot of their land. They were very, very wealthy. They had houses all over Cairo. They had land and farms and things like that. And so he said, rather than having the government take it and redistribute it, he went to the peasants that were actually working on the land and said, I'm giving this to you. So he kept 1 or 2 properties for himself and his family, gave everything else away. And so even now, like when we would go travel, through the desert or the farmlands, and people would know the family name because that was where their family got their start. But finding the history of that family has been a bit elusive, and I'm still kind of doing that research.
But did it? So your mom is born in Egypt, but comes to study in California, and then, I mean, how is it like? I don't know. Did that affect your childhood somehow? I mean, were you supposed to, I don't know, be more Egypt?
No, it was.
It was a traditional American household, or
yeah.
how?
I mean, my father is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed American boy, but born and raised in Berkeley, California. Grew up during the Depression, fought in World War II. I mean, very just as American as you can get. And the Egyptian side of my mother's personality, she tried to diminish that. Like she had the American hairstyle and the type of dress. I guess they met in the 1960s. They weren't quite hippies, but they were trying to be fashionable. And she tried to hide her Egyptian accent. And so we were raised as American kids, but there was always something, Egyptian aspect. When she would get angry, for example, she would start swearing at us in Arabic. That was always good for a laugh.
Yeah, then you knew she was angry. And what kind of kid were you? Were you, good kid or a trouble kid or?
I was a good kid. I wasn't rebellious. My parents are very reasonable. They didn't have any, just let me be a kid, and as long as I didn't burn the house down, everything was pretty much good. And so I never really had any big rebellious instances.
And you started learning instruments, right?
Yeah, when I guess I was 3 years old, because my mother's family is very musical. Everybody plays piano, classically trained, and my mother said, okay, well, now it's your turn. So I was dragged once a week to Mrs. Kellogg, who was this lovely woman who had the patience to teach 3-year-olds, and started in on classical piano. And it was, when I was a little kid, I was a bit cross-eyed, and it was very difficult for me to read music. But I found it was very easy for me to remember it. If I heard it played, then I could just remember it and then emulate it that way. And even though we were learning sight reading, I never actually learned how to do that. And I fooled everybody for like 9 years.
Whoa.
I just would have to have, it played to me. And, you know, most of the classical melodies are, you know, quite popular and you can recognize them. And so it wasn't really difficult for me to remember them. But then it was just, okay, left hand does that, whatever. And then just stare at the paper blankly and just so they wouldn't yell at me. But that was basically my piano lessons.
But you said dragged. She dragged you.
Well, no kid wants to spend his weekends, you know, playing piano. I mean, I thought it was a continuous thing all the way up until I was 12 years old. It's time for your piano lesson. Oh, for fuck's sake, really? God.
But were you good? Were you any good? I mean, or was it easy for you, or you know, it came naturally, or?
I think I did what was required of me. But later, as I got older, it was specifically classical piano, and which, you know, in the times of disco, and the piano teacher said, well, we're going to do something a little different this time, and would try to get me to learn some Diana Ross song or something. And I would just do what was necessary, but it never really, you know, held my interest passionately. Just kind of just try to get it over with and, you know, jumping through the hoops.
Yeah. But do you then eventually you pick up the guitar? How did that come around?
I guess I was about 12 or 13 and started getting exposed to rock and pop music. And I think it was AC/DC and Van Halen. And somehow I don't remember how I got hold of these albums. And I was listening, it was the first Van Halen album. And, you know, grooving on it just because of the energy and the tones. The second track on that album is called Eruption, and it's just an open guitar solo.
Yeah.
And was listening to that thinking like, wow, the keyboardist in this band is amazing. How is this even possible? And I was looking at the album cover, looking for the credits, like, I wonder who plays keyboards on this. And there is no keyboardist in this band. And it was at that time I realized that that's a fucking guitar. Holy shit. And that's when I knew. I said, okay, there's no more piano for me. And I have a half-brother on my father's side called me and said, Jeffrey, if you quit piano, you're going to regret it forever, and music is a skill that, you know, you can...
They applied the pressure on you.
Blah, 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 blah. And I said, yeah, I'm going to start playing guitar, and that was about that. There was nothing that was going to stop me at that point. Yeah. I said, oh, okay, I'll continue piano just because I got a nice phone call one afternoon. No, I don't think so. And your first guitar, there's a story around that one. You know, you bought it, or your father? No, you bought it yourself, right? No, I was 13, so my dad got it for me. I told him I wanted to play guitar, and he said okay, and he took me to the classical guitar shop that was in town, and the salesman tried to sell us one of these beautiful nylon string classical guitars, and I was like, no, this is not Eddie Van Halen. Yeah, that's not direction I was going. And my father, I mean, he didn't know it. He was saying, well, it seems like, you know, you should learn the traditional skills first and then graduate over to blah, 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 blah. And no, let's just get this right the first time. So I dragged him to Guitar Center, which is a big, massive music store in San Francisco. And it was a Gibson ES335 solid body, which is a very unusual guitar. But it was a great guitar. It played well, and it was cute. And I was obsessed with this thing. I never put it down. And I got good really quickly. So he was like, okay, fuck it. He likes the thing. I guess let's continue in that way.
And how much did you pay for it?
I believe it was $265.
But you bumped into that guitar later, right?
Yeah, and I guess it was in 1998 or something.
That's like 15 years on, 17 years on, right?
Yeah, because I had sold the guitar. I moved on to a different style of instrument, and I ended up selling this. And who knows the story of how it ended up back at a different Guitar Center used. But by this time, it was considered a classic instrument because they're very rare. And I saw it. I recognized there was a piece broken out of it that I had done. I don't remember if I dropped it or whatever. And I said, "That's my guitar. That's my old guitar." And they were asking ridiculous money for it. And I told the salesman, "Hey, this is." He didn't care.
And then, but you went on to have guitar lessons, right?
Yeah, I had the parents thinking, well, he has to learn the traditional stuff first. So I got sent to a jazz teacher. I can't remember his name, but it was being stuck in this little cubicle with this chain smoking, just a nasty, bitter man. And he didn't want to be there. He certainly didn't want to be teaching some 13-year-old kid. And I wanted to learn how to play Black Sabbath, right? And he's like, "No, you're going to learn jazz first." And looking back at the first lessons that he gave me, I'm pretty sure he was trying to scare me off. He was trying to piss me off. He gave me a really complicated circle of fifths jazz chord progression without ever telling me, for example, where on the guitar neck is B. So he's like, "Okay, it's circle of fifths. You're going to go through the B, E, A, D, G, C, and so on and so forth. Then you cycle around, you go up an octave. Here's your lesson. Go fuck yourself. Light the cigarette." And I took it home and sat with the piano and said, "Okay, well, there's B. It's on this fret." And these actually really complicated chords. This is my first lesson. And sat there and fucking fingered these fucking chords out without any concept of how this was certainly not suitable in any way
for a beginner.
And came back, and I had scribbled notes in pencil all over the paper that he given me, and he saw that, and he's like, "You erased all my notes. This is cheating. You don't cheat in jazz." And but I played through the thing, and he sat there chain smoking and soloing over this progression. And he said something stupid and then sent me on my way. The next lesson, it was more the same. And I said something like, "I'd really like to learn some rock and roll techniques. You could show me some of that also." "Nah, this is for jazz. You're here to learn jazz." So I never went back to him. Ended up with lessons with this guy, local guitar player in Berkeley named Robbie Dunbar, who had a quite popular band at the time. And he's a great guy, good player. But I, at that point, had kind of discovered, because I have big hands, and I discovered how to use them and started getting really, really good. By the time I'd been playing for 6 months or something, he said, "I don't think I can teach you anymore. But there's this guy in town. His name is Joe Satriani, and he teaches all the really great guitar players. He's fantastic. If you can get in, I highly recommended it." So I looked the guy up. He called me back and said, "Yeah, I got a spot. Let's try it out." And I went in there, and holy shit, this guy was good. I said, "Okay, I'm going to have to stick with this guy. He can teach me stuff." And
he wasn't very old himself, right? I mean, he must have been just a few years older than you.
Yeah, well, let's see. This was 1983. I actually don't really even know how old he is, to tell you the truth.
But Joe Satriani, just for the ones listening, he's one of those kind of great virtuoso guitarists, that everyone who plays guitar knows Joe Satriani. If my mom is listening to this, he might not know him, but pretty much everybody that listens to any kind of rock music will know Joe Satriani, right?
Yeah, he's a legend. Absolutely. And he sells out concerts all over the world.
But back then, when you were with him, he was
just the guy that taught guitar at the corner store. he had that same horrible little cubicle. He didn't chain smoke, thank God.
And no jazz.
Well, unless you ask for it, like, because he's actually a great jazz player as well. You wouldn't know because he doesn't, do that kind of style commercially. But what I specifically said was, I want to, play the heavy metal at the time, this Eddie Van Halen rock kind of, super active type of guitar playing, which he's an expert at, and just got straight through it. And a few weeks in our lessons, he said, I really have to kind of check myself when I realize that you've only been playing for 6 months. I can't fathom that that's true, because, I have to ignore that, because you're way better than most people who've been playing for 6 months. And that's kind of how our relationship continued. He ended up booking my lesson at the end of each day, so that if it went long, and they frequently went 2 or 3 hours long, even though it was really supposed to just be an hour, and, we would just
jamming.
Yeah, we would explore a concept, and then it would, he would invite other guitar players, other of his students in, and then we would talk about, philosophical stuff about fashion and about guitar tones, and so he really became I was just a sponge, and he was just a mentor to me.
He later said, so I saw somewhere that he considers 2 guitar players to have kind of graduated from him, which is, one of them is you, and the other one is Steve Vai, which is another big name in the guitar business.
Yeah, I mean, at the point where you were able to teach yourself, I'm guessing, or at least you can say that a student is going off in an artistic direction, and you don't need to catch up with him because he's doing okay. I mean, obviously he didn't teach me absolutely everything he knows, but I mean that there was a certain point where I knew what my style was going to be, and then
because you go off to an individual direction, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
And you, like, at this time, I mean, like, we're talking about this 80 to 83, 4, 5. I mean, this area, like the so-called Bay Area in California, and then, basically more or less all of California, was kind of the, how do you say, like, it was the home ground of everything that was happening in rock music and then in metal. So I guess, I mean, what bands were coming up around this time, and were you influenced by that? Like, I know Metallica was there, and all the bands like that. Yeah,
there was. I mean, just in my high school, it was Alex Skolnick from Testament, Larry Lalonde from Primus, Kevin Cadigan is a Third Eye Blind. A few years older than me was Phil Kettner from Exodus. I'm not sure. I think Kirk Hammett went to the high school in another city, but he was in the same scene. And then we had a lot of the hip hop guys, Digital Underground, tons of jazz guys. There was Josh Shedroff, who I think his professional name is Joshua Redman. Fantastic musician. And then a lot of the Tim Armstrong from Rancid and Operation Ivy. He was one grade below me, and so it was everywhere.
But why? Why in this area? What was there any?
I don't know if it was any one source, but there were certain factors. Like in public school in Berkeley was this liberal feminist experiment, and I didn't know it at the time because I had nothing to compare it to. But I mean, I think it was first grade. They came and they said, "Okay, you have your choice of a free instrument and free lessons until you graduate 12th grade. What would you like to play?" And you could choose saxophone or trumpet or drums and literally anything. And you would go into band, and the band and music courses, award-winning bands came out of these schools. And although I didn't choose that path because I was already taking piano lessons, a lot of the people that did, there was just music everywhere, and it wasn't, some shitty, recorder class. It was a dude learning how to play tenor saxophone every day in class as part of his curriculum. And that really permeated the whole culture. And we had Afro-Cuban dance. You could learn Swahili. It was that kind of school.
You didn't pick up the Egypt or Arabic.
You could learn Arabic too if you wanted. I didn't.
Because it's actually interesting what you're saying. It made me think back in Iceland, where I'm from. Then they did this. They actually combined music teaching with regular school. So it's in one place. Like the music teacher comes to the school and the classes are there, and then I think we have a very high ratio per capita of people that actually play instruments or create music or whatever they do with this. And I think, when you say it makes sense. If you give the chance to kids to do something like this, they will take that chance, and the outcome will be something like this. And I mean, we're talking about in the Bay Area, we had Slayer, we had Metallica, later Megadeth, Testament, Anthrax. I mean, Anthrax is further south, I think. No, Anthrax was New York, sorry. And this whole, Exodus, I mean, there was just like this whole genre of thrash metal came out of there at that time. And you had the hair metal still there, like the Mötley Crüe and the Guns N' Roses and all that stuff.
Yeah, and later pop punk like Green Day.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't just the lessons. It was your peers were fucking great musicians, and you would be at you're 9 years old, you're at a sleepover, and somebody starts playing the piano, and you better have something to contribute, because that's what you're doing at the sleepover. Mm-hmm. You're not going to run around town, tipping cattle. It was just it was just everywhere.
But I guess there must have been a lot of concerts then. I mean, did you see any of those bands when they were kind of in their early days, like in small locations or bars or something? I mean, how was that?
Yeah, I remember I was with, it was the guys that became the band Sacrilege. Sacrilege didn't get huge, but they were a Berkeley metal band that everybody knew. And a guitar player handed me this tape of this band called Metallica and said, "You got to check this out." It was their first release, which was on cassette. And damn, whoa, I would just out of the water. Never heard anything like this. And hey, they're gonna play live. We were 13 at the time. They were playing at this place called Ruthie's Inn, which is this little pub. I would say maximum 50 people could fit in this thing. So we couldn't get in because it was a pub, but there were so many people in there that they were not able to close the doors. So we were able to see Metallica live by standing on our tiptoes out in the street. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if Dave Mustaine was in the band at the time, because I just didn't have any real awareness of what it was just a band I was seeing. So there was that. Then Exodus played once on the steps of our school. Like after school, why are they playing? Like, I don't know, fuck it, it's free, here we go. And then there was another band, they were called, what were they called? It was one of the guitar players from Exodus played in another band.
Gary Holt? No.
No, I'm friends with Gary. I know Gary, but no, it was the other guy. I can't. Oh, this was a long time ago. I guess I'm forgetting.
But then at this time you're not in a band yourself, right? I mean, you didn't start right away in a band, right?
Actually, in 8th grade, I started a band with Dave Edwardson. Dave Edwardson later went on to form the band Neurosis. Although I was never in Neurosis, he and I had a first little jam band, which we called Blackguard, which was, I think we had one song that we just played over and over and over again. And then, but when I was 14 or something, I met this guy, Anthony Wells, who was the most weirdest, wildest guy I've ever known. Fantastic person. He used to run around town, and he had this classical guitar with him, and he would just write songs with lyrics and serenade the ladies. And he gave me one of these guitars, and so we both had them. And I started learning how to write songs, and not just that, but I had it at school with me. So I didn't just practice when I was at home. I played constantly through the day. And all of my teachers said, okay, well, you know, just don't play while the lecture's going, but otherwise it's totally fine. And so as I was getting into the art of songwriting, and I was looking to what was available to me as like what I would consider like something to aspire to, I was not really drawn to heavy metal. I was drawn more to like Motown, Marvin Gaye, and Earth, Wind and Fire, and R&B music, because it had more complicated chord progressions. It had more interesting rhythmic changes, and it had a more interesting bed for vocal melodies. And so ended up having a collection of songs that, you know, without really having a band to express something like that, or even really having the knowledge of how to arrange something, decided that the best course of action was to go to a recording studio and track it with drum machines and learn how to make records. I started with just a cassette 4-track, and I had a little drum machine, and I would just sit and just experiment and try to get something that didn't sound terrible. And eventually, by the time I was 15, we ended up booking a recording studio in a city called Palo Alto, which is south of San Francisco. And as a 15-year-old, walked into this recording studio for the first time and met the guy that would later be the drummer for the band T-Ride that I played in. This is the famous producer now, Eric Valentine, who you may know his name. He produced Smash Mouth and Third Eye Blind. He did one Satriani album, Queens of the Stone Age. So he's you know, his name is etched in history. Now, I met him when I was 15. He was a 16-year-old kid operating a recording studio in the garage of the converted garage of his bandmates' parents. And I was fascinated with their whole scenario and ended up working there at the studio. They asked me to play in the band. We traded, you know, my skills for, he was kind of a mentor for me as a recording engineer and producer as well, and ended up playing with those guys for, you know, the next 8 years or so.
But your first live performance, though, was with Joe Satriani, right?
Yeah, that was actually also interesting story. So this is after I had stopped taking lessons with him. I was in a band with Eric Valentine and the singer Dan Arley. The band was called T-Ride. T-Ride, we did a 4-song demo, which was we produced ourselves, and which was really, really extraordinary. And then signed with a company called Bill Graham Management. And Bill Graham also managed Satriani. So we all kind of knew each other, and everybody was, you know, working together in that way. There was, because this band had been designed in the recording studio, and because it was experimental music, we didn't really have opportunities to take it to the stage yet. And I got a call one day from Satriani's manager, and he said, yeah, Joe's equipment truck was stolen last night, and, you know, because Satriani's band at the time was a trio, it was guitar, bass, and drums, but there were other things in the arrangement, like other guitar parts or synthesizer parts or something, that were triggered by a sampler. So the drummer would hit a bar, and then a sampled guitar phrase would play. Well, that sampler was gone. So they needed somebody to come in and play those parts. Can you do it? Okay, where's the concert? It's at the Cow Palace, opening for Steve Miller Band. 15,000 people. I was not going to say no, but I was terrified. So I rode my motorcycle out there. And the thing is, like, I was aware of Satriani's music. Of course, I'd listened to it, but I didn't know how to play any of it.
Is that stuff from Surfing the Alien then, or?
Yeah, and Not of This Earth.
Both great albums.
Yeah, and I ended up, I think it was maybe 5 songs or something, and he said basically you're going to play the clean guitar. But Satriani had such a high opinion of me that it wasn't like a guitar lesson. He just basically said, okay, it goes like this, dun, 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 then it's down to major third, dun, 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 and then you pause 8 and then repeat. Okay, got it. Okay, next song. And there was no playthrough. There was no practice. And and I was just in my head thinking, oh God, please don't fuck this up. And so Satriani was opening for Steve Miller. And I was starting the show. The show started with the song Flying in a Blue Dream. Yeah. So it starts with this clean guitar.
Yeah.
So I went to the drummer, I believe it was Jeff Capitelli, and I said, I need you to bang your sticks together. I need a tempo. I need to follow somebody, because that's how I'm used to playing. I'm used to playing to a track.
Yeah.
And he went, oh, yeah, cool. So 2, 3, 4. The fucking lights came on, and then the screams. Whew. And it was being broadcast live on the radio. I didn't know that at the time.
Oh, and you're 18, 16?
Yeah, 18, I think. 17 or 18, fuck? I remember. And it was fine. I mean, we played, and assumed like what I considered this is the rock and roll body position. You know, stand with your head high and your legs slightly apart.
Yeah.
And somehow pulled it off. And
your father was there. You told me that.
Yeah, my friend Tony called my father and said, "Hey, your boy's going to be playing Cow Palace." My father, what the fuck is a rock concert? He had no idea what that was. He says he drove out there, bought a ticket, and sat, and he said, I wasn't really sure what I was looking at, but I was very proud of you. He joked. He said, I wasn't even sure I was facing in the right direction, but...
Yeah. But yeah, so you're, at this time, when you make that first gig with no one else than Joe Satriani, of course, then you're in that band, T-Ride. And I read a little bit about that band. I've been watching some of or listening to some of the music on YouTube and watching some of the videos. That album that came out in 92, right? That took 6 years to make.
Yeah, it was a very interesting process. As I said, when I first met Eric, he was 16 years old. And the concept was that they would run this recording studio as a business, recording other bands, at the same time learning how to produce and arrange and record so that those skills could be applied to T-Ride. And so that's what was happening. There was a long period of experimentation. Some of these songs, we had 5, 6 different versions of them. That was fine. That was all part of the exploratory process. Eventually, Eric got to be a good enough producer that we did this 4-song demo. The songwriting was solid enough. We got a management a contract. We got a record deal
with a big company, right?
Yeah, Bill Graham was the guy that brought the Rolling Stones to the United States first time, or Jimi Hendrix. He was at Woodstock telling Jimi Hendrix that he needs to stop fucking around and play his guitar. He's that guy. Very interesting guy. Very interesting story. So yeah, he was huge. We signed a record deal with Hollywood Records, which was an affiliate of Disney, and they just showered us with cash, where most bands would go and hire a name producer and spend this money on recording studio time. They negotiated that this would be spent to update the recording studio that they already owned, and that the Eric would produce the album. So everybody agreed. Eric's first decision as a producer was, hey, now that we have this new mixing desk and these new microphones, we have to re-record all of everything that we've already done. All of the songs that were already done, we had to start from zero. And I mean, personally, I thought that was ridiculous, just so that whatever a guitar tone could be slightly better, or whatever better means. But the performances, when we were doing it again, he insisted that they were exactly as they were before.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, I thought was fucking idiotic, because it's all about performances. And I mean, who the fuck cares about the tonality as long as the performance is good? So it took a long time to do that. Long enough so that we went from the period where Def Leppard was at the top of the charts to a period where heavy metal was sort of dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the album was done at this time, and we had submitted it, and there's this period of time where it hasn't been released yet, organizing tours, doing music videos, and somebody gave me a cassette of the first Nirvana album.
The second one, actually.
The second one, yeah.
Mm.
And
it smells like Teen Spirit.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And that song...
never mind, sorry. Never mind.
Yeah. But that song smells like Teen Spirit. I was walking through Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, and that came on. I was listening on my Walkman and went, oh, shit. There was something very special about this. And it was this intangible thing. But when you hear something and it's special. And my first thought was, fuck, this really changes everything. This guy, he can't even play the fucking guitar, and I don't care. I love this. This guy's amazing. Oh my God. I took it to them, to Eric and Dan, to T-Ride, and I said, guys, you have to hear this. And they dismiss it. This is shitty. It's a shitty recording. He can't sing, whatever. And, but the legacy of that release, it was like a fart in a room. There was nothing that we could do to get away from that. The fact that was changing the music industry so quickly that I think it caught us right before we started doing our music videos, so that dictated how we were going to dress and how the image was going to be. So we can't do that traditional rock, heavy metal bullshit, Hey, put a flannel shirt on this guy, and suddenly everything is forgivable. But the style of music that we were doing was the antithesis of what Nirvana was.
Yeah, because yours is very polished. It's very kind of, you can hear that this, I can hear on your music and from T-Ride, qualified musicians, very produced. And then you have Kurt Cobain standing out there, hasn't washed his hair for a month, and a sweater from his grandma, and he's getting everyone crazy.
And it's so obvious that anybody can see it. And that we had spent so much like microscopic focus on things like, the guitar, bass, and drums on this one drum fill have to match and syncopate in such a way, even though it only lasts for about a second and a half, we spend 3 or 4 days getting that one right. Drum fill tight. And it would pass like this. And, for what it is, it's done really, really well. But it just could not have been a more perfect time for this to not be that. The reviews on the band, when the album came out, people were saying, okay, yeah, this is the new style of metal. People like this music. At least the critics, they did. Maybe the public was going off in a different direction. But it makes me wonder. So you spent 6 years on this album, and then you kind of get caught in the I don't know, the whirlwind of Nirvana and grunge, which, had a huge impact on not just your band, but everything that was going on at that time. What if that album would have come out 3 years earlier? Yours, that is. Yeah. Well, this is all about managing your business strategy and your expectations. So, for example, the business strategy of the release of this album was to treat it like any band that you assumed would be a big hit. So the strategy was similar to if they were releasing Janet Jackson or the Eurythmics. And that the kind of money that goes into doing promotion and touring and radio plugging was commensurate with something that they assumed would be a massive hit.
They were betting on you.
Yes, absolutely. And the public's response was actually really good. We did quite well when we toured. We had great responses. We toured for almost a year straight. I mean, it was a really fantastic thing. But then when we came back to comparing the amount of effort and money to what was actually realistic, we discovered that the band should have gone with a more of an indie kind of a strategy, an indie budget, that we got the most action when we were on tour. We didn't get on radio charts. We didn't get on the Billboard Top 100 because we just didn't have songs like that. And that should have been obvious to everybody involved. But again, we were coming from this mentality of like Def Leppard and heavy metal is king and we're better than those guys. And now, because of 6 years later, we have better guitar tones.
But do you think like, would it have changed everything if it would have happened? You know what I mean? Do you see it as those 6 years were 4 years too long? Or, I mean, in hindsight.
I mean, the whole strategy, I mean, you can't, everything was working according to their plan. They just had the wrong plan. But they didn't know that. They didn't realize that until after the album was released and after the first tour was over. So that's probably a year and a half or more after the album was released when we started into the second album and then started reassessing the business strategy and where money was going to get spent and who we were going to work with. And at the same time, they were reshuffling people at the record company who also had that exact same perspective. So when we started into the second album, because we had a second album in our contract, it was the A&R guy who signed Alice in Chains. I don't remember his name, but I remember he was like 40 centimeters tall, but he had an attitude like he was king of all gods. He was such a cunt. He was this entitled little rich white kid bitch who just got lucky because he signed Alice in Chains, moved over to Hollywood Records, and sat on the recording studio couch and said, "All right, play me this fucking new record." And before we could play him anything, he said, "I just want to tell you, like, I never liked your band. I wouldn't have signed you. I don't know why anybody would waste any time on your fucking music." This was our A&R guy. This was our direct contact in the record company. So let's say there was not a great start to the meeting. And and so what became painfully clear, to me at least, was that there's nothing you're going to do is going to please this guy. So we should go in a direction more weird and artsy. We should capitalize on the fans that we already have, who've already illustrated that they like this weird, complicated music. Don't try to write pop music now because we wouldn't get the support for that. Let's continue on like an indie band with an indie strategy. Let's stay out on tour. I love touring. And then let's just build it one album at a time like Metallica did. Well, that strategy didn't jive with the other guys in the band. Eric hated touring. Dan hated touring. Eric wanted to be a famous record producer. So that strategy was dumped fairly quickly. And then at the same time, it was like the passion and the energy to finish this album was also dumped. It's very hard to get everybody in the studio at the same time.
And it never been published, right?
Illegally, it's on
YouTube.
On
I found it there.
But there's tracks that I haven't even heard finished. Like I went in and did my parts, but the process finished before I even heard those. So I don't know. Maybe we'll hear them someday.
But you You said in some interview that I read that that there was a lot of kind of Spinal Tap moments around, like how your music videos were being shown on some stock exchange TV channels at 2:00 in the morning, and you know, and some of the people that you were having to talk to were explaining you, not talking about music, they were telling you how to castrate pigs.
Well, this is the brilliance of the movie Spinal Tap.
Mm.
If you haven't seen that movie, you should go see it.
It's brilliant.
From 1981, I think, or something.
It's great.
The reason that this movie is so funny is because it is true. That it's true from the situations that the characters, like their A&R girl, what was her name? Bobby. Hiya, it's Bobby Fleck. Nice to meet you. That character. That we knew that exact person in our record company. We'd say, "Oh my God, that's Rachel. Holy shit." Everything about that movie for us was autobiographical, including the opening act for a puppet show. I'll tell you the story. We had just finished one leg of the Joe Satriani tour in the United States. Our last show was in Florida, and we had a showcase concert in Hollywood, I think 5 days later. So we had gone with a new booking agency, and they said, well, you got to drive back to Hollywood anyway, so why don't we book some shows for you on the way? Cool. So one of the shows we played was at a library, and we were literally on the marquee. It said puppet show and T-Ride. And we got up on stage, fucking heavy metal band, and there were tables and people reading books in front of us. And okay, fuck it, 2, 3, we start playing, and the screen that they used to show children's cartoons just went down in front of the stage, covering us except for our feet. And we're thinking, okay, that's an obvious mistake. Somebody will solve that soon, but they didn't. It stayed down for the whole show. And and what are you going to do? You're just like, okay, fuck it, I'm professional. This is, I don't know.
Gotta do it.
Yeah. And then the show after that was in San Luis Obispo. San Luis Obispo.
Yeah, and I've been there actually.
Yeah,
I saw Berlin, the band Berlin, play live in that city.
Yeah,
take your breath
like
away from the Tom Cruise Top Gun.
I played a show with Berlin once in Los Angeles. Lovely people.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so we were scheduled to play at a university club in summer. Now, San Luis Obispo is a university town, so in the summer it's empty. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
So previously, like for example, when we were on tour with Satriani, I would usually have a beer before I went on stage. It's nice to kind of calm your nerves. It's actually makes it easier to sing, and eventually that one beer would sometimes turn to 2. And the singer and I, Dan, would joke and say, wow, I wonder how many beers we could drink and still play a show. But we weren't going to really experiment. We weren't going to test that when we were out on tour with Satriani. But we got to this club in San Luis Obispo, and it was so small that they needed to bring out this little wooden plank extension for the stage just so that we could fit all of our gear on the stage. And with that extension, I could touch the back wall of the club. Standing on stage, I could touch the back wall. It was that small. So even if there was anybody there, it would be just enough for a single file line of people. So we said, all right, you know what that means? This is the day. This is the day that we're going to discover how drunk we can get and still play a show. Like you have to, you can't play in the middle of the street until you see the far corner, until you know where it is, right? So we explained this to the bartender, and he was more than happy to oblige. And let's say that it was, well, we learned exactly how drunk we could play because we went far beyond that point. We started playing the show. And now this is not easy music to play. So you really, have to be on top of it. And the first song, I was like, fuck, okay. This is actually really difficult. It's not fun. I walked forward for my first vocal, so I stepped on that new stage extension, which was not exactly level against the ground. So when I stepped on it, it shifted back, and the microphone, like a rocket, pow, and hit me right in the face. Knocked me off the back of the stage, feet up in the air. That's the first 45 seconds of the show. And I don't remember the rest of it.
But there was not a lot of people there, I guess. So
there was nobody there. It was just us and the bartender.
Damage. Yeah.
But yeah, that was the Spinal Tap reality of what it was like.
But what is it that, like, if you look at like this band, I mean, you get a record contract, you have enough money to spend 6 years on making an album, you tour for a year, you get some promotions, and I mean, yeah, maybe they might have been on the wrong TV stations at the wrong hour, but I mean, yeah, like you say, they betted on you, and it makes me think, because I mean, you were all qualified musicians. It was definitely not just a regular. When I listened to that music, I would okay, I have no fucking clue who these guys copied, if they copied anyone. It was original, it was yours, and I'm thinking, okay, so why didn't it become big? I mean, like, apart from, or maybe it's more like a generic question. You know, what sets us apart? A band that becomes successful and a band that doesn't, but the music-wise, they might be both great. You know, is there anything when you look back, or if you look at the industry in general, and you can say, okay, so yeah, this is why this worked and this is why this failed?
It's an interesting question, and it's a deep question, because a lot of the how would you say, like, the mistake or the folly of the music industry is to try to quantify art in a way that you can sell it. And in that way, you have to treat it like it's any other product, like breakfast cereal. Okay, well, who is it for?
Yeah.
What is the brand? How do we squeeze this artistic product into the mold that we already know how to sell as a business? And that T-Ride was very, very difficult to do that with. Like, who is this for? And at the same time, it was, you know, the audience was it was impossible to quantify. We couldn't say, well, okay, it's specifically for this demographic, this kind of, this aged male that lives in this region. We found that we had fans from all over the world, and they were all different, and it was incredibly difficult to quantify. And so I think that the music that really transcends all that, the music that really sticks in the human psyche, is the music that is successful despite their best efforts. Like, they throw it out into the world and they try to market it. Basically, the song is so good that they were incapable of fucking it up. You can't say that, for example, the law of supply and demand does not work with music.
No.
But they will treat it that way. They will have, their business strategies will do that. So, okay, you're not going to sell more records this way, but as long as you don't fuck it up, then great.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of protecting the current situation is a low risk approach. So, and it's interesting when you say this, that they're actually trying to take something that is very, how do you say, diverse or different, and they're trying to wrap it into something and sell it to a target group.
Yeah, and you'll have a song that goes viral that just breaks out of nowhere, and everybody, it defies all of the rules, all of the current trends and the assumed knowledge that, when in reality people don't really care about that. It's like either like the song or they don't.
No.
Like, you know that song by CeeLo, "Fuck You." Like, that would never ever pass the
filters,
record company filter. They say you can't say "fuck you." People don't like that. Like, well, apparently they do. Apparently it was a huge fucking hit, despite your best efforts to fucking ruin it. Now, take something like, I don't know, like Warrant or Poison.
Yeah, great bands.
Yeah, the songs that they had, that they wrote, that were hits, it could have been just a kid with an acoustic guitar singing that exact song, and it would have been just as big as a hit.
Yeah.
Because it's a well-written song.
Yeah.
They had to package it with the lipstick and the spandex leopard print pants and the big hair and the fucking pyrotechnic show, because that was considered to be proper branding at the time. But totally unnecessary, and may have actually hindered them later on in their careers.
Yeah, they more became a joke because, I mean, for example, Poison, they have, you can't really say publicly, "Oh, I'm a Poison fan," now, because that's kind of like, because of what you said, you know, like the dress and the makeup and all the hair and the blow drying and all the stuff that they did. But actually, a lot of their songs are great.
Yeah, he's a good
and
songwriter.
they were and great musicians, you know, and good you know, played their instruments well and all that. But the image that was created around it kind of became so silly that nobody would want to admit that this kid is theirs, you know, like it's
Exactly. And at the same time, later on, when they just wanted to tour as a band, there's just a dude, he's wearing blue jeans, and you go, that's the dude from Poison. Oh, he's such a poser. He's trying to follow the fashion. He's following trends because he, like, the dude can't win now. He's like, I'm just being myself, and I'm getting shit on because, I had a fucking
spandex time. But it's interesting. So you basically, what you're saying is that the music that is successful is that survives the mechanism of the industry.
Yeah, that's in my experience. There's never been here's an example. There's a song by Prince. It was off his first album. I feel for you. I think I love you. Right? Great song. So whatever, it was nothing until it was re-recorded many years later by Shaka Khan. And that's when that song became a hit. Why wasn't it a hit the first time? Well, it's not because it wasn't a great song. Was it something about the human psyche that somehow fundamentally changed in 3 years? No, it was the record company fucked it up. That's the only possible solution.
So you spent this year on the road. It's sex, drugs, and rock and roll, I guess. I mean, like it must have been a lot of fun. I mean, you're young at that time, and I mean, if I didn't have very kind of ambitious dreams as a 17-year-old. I just wanted to have enough money to buy moonshine, pizza, and take a taxi home, hopefully with a girl every once in a while. And then then you're touring with a band for a year. You're standing on stage playing for thousands of people, and you're touring with all the bands, so you meet the big rock stars and stuff like this. How did you handle this?
We were actually really well behaved. We didn't have any extraordinarily crazy evenings, not any more than I would have now. We never disrespected anybody. We never got into drugs, never broke television sets or trashed hotel rooms. It was like Eric didn't drink. Dan and I would have a couple of beers. I mean, they were like my best friends. And then my other best friend, Anthony, was my guitar tech. Had great respect for the people in the management and the crew. And so, our days were like play the set, have a couple beers, meet some people, go back, go to sleep, and then drive.
No party.
I mean, yeah, we would party, but not any more than I would do now. Like go to the pub, hang out with some people. And there's quite a few people that I met on those tours that I'm still friends with. And, not like these stories that I'm hearing about Marilyn Manson duct taping women to the ceiling, and it just wasn't part of our thing. It just never even really occurred to us. There was one band that we were opening for. They were called Asphalt Ballet. Also a good band. And there was one night that we were in their hotel room, and the drummer thought he was going to follow through with these rock star stereotypes and broke the window out of the hotel and tore the TV, which was bolted down to the dresser. He tore it off the dresser and threw it out the window and just tore up the whole hotel room. And we were just sitting there trying to figure out, like, at what point does this get fun? This is ridiculous. And how much is that going to cost you? And was that worth this little bit of performance art that nobody will ever see? And what you think, is this like your rock star initiation? Like, why are you doing this? What is this for? So we were extremely well behaved, and that was fine. We didn't do anything stupid. We didn't hurt anybody, and there's no danger of some fucking videotape showing up with us doing dumb stuff. And there it is.
There's a lot of you as a musician and your band invested in a project like this, and I guess anyone that has a chance of doing this, working in a professional studio, having a budget, having money, going on tour, kind of getting the smell of this. It must be a little bit, how to say, demotivating to. I think that doesn't even captivate it somehow. I mean, it must have been kind of a crash in a way that it ends, that it's not going to continue.
Yeah, well, I mean, investing everything from the age of 15 years old to this one project, you play into it and you assume that you're going to be successful. That's
because you can't really have any other mindset.
Yeah, and so that means no university, no actual job skills. And in a worst case scenario, you think, well, at least I have connections in the music industry. At least I have, some notoriety. But then in that worst case scenario, nobody ever thought that your musical style would die like disco did. And it was actually really kind of intense, at the end of the us trying to record the second album, and then the record company calling and saying, yeah, no thanks. There was some effort to kind of hold on to it and find a different incarnation of it that could work. But then there were arguments in the band, and which was didn't really involve.
A little bit of water for Geoff here. Just a brief moment.
Didn't really involve me specifically. The other guys were doing the business. But I came to this point where I realized, oh, shit. I mean, how am I going to support myself? Which was actually really terrifying. Because, I mean, it's not like you're going to get unemployment insurance from
being in a metal band.
Yeah, it's a completely speculative entrepreneurial business kind of thing. And if the money's out, then you're out. So what the fuck are you going to do? So while all of this was happening, I said, okay, well, I've learned enough about the art and the business that it would make sense for me to start a recording studio, writing songs, producing other artists, and built a little recording studio in my tiny room in San Francisco. I shared a flat with, I think it was like 9 people and 7 dogs or something. It was a really, really crazy place, but it was tiny and I could afford it. And I was able, I actually got 2 artists signed to that same management label that I was working with. So we were doing good work. I was broke as fuck, but I was able to get some momentum. I was able to utilize the efforts of the past few years and kind of continue that into the future. But the problem with that was San Francisco. I'm gonna say maybe 1993 or 4 or something. And this was right when the methamphetamine the wave came through San Francisco, which was, I mean, there must be something written about it. I was in the middle of it, but I don't know how other people perceived it. But what I saw was the roommates that I had going down one at a time, becoming these fucking tweakers. And there was one guy in particular who's this British cocksucker named Mark. What was his name? Mark. I'm going to say his name out loud because fuck that guy. If I can remember his name. I remember his little fucking pasty box head. But basically, this little cunt, I mean, he was a construction guy, alcoholic.
Meth head.
Yeah, meth head. And one day he was, because he did construction, he had like lots of oily rags and paint thinners in the apartment. And he also had a vast candle and long billowy curtain collection, which on a windy San Francisco evening, all of those things combined and ignited, and the apartment literally exploded. And I remember I was asleep. It was about 1 a.m, and I felt the ground rising up underneath, and then the screams and the dogs barking, "Get the fuck out, get the fuck out." And I got out on a cold, misty November evening with one guitar and watched the whole fucking thing
burn to the ground. I had no shoes, no socks, no shirt, and a guitar. And Red Cross came, and they were fantastic. I didn't even know they did that kind of thing. But they, tried to help as much as possible. And then the next few days were, just sleepless, trying to get whatever was left of my recording studio gear out. Everything was either burned or it was covered with this like chemical water that the fire department used. Half of it was melted, and I didn't have anywhere to go. My father lent me his car, and I was able to store it in a garage somewhere, and then I was homeless. And that's not fun. No, it's just pretty, but Geoff, what you're describing is a pretty steep hill to roll down. Like you're kind of on stage playing for, people and in a band, and then, your whole shit burns down and you're homeless. Yeah,
and the way that people I knew responded to that was really incredible. The guys in T-Ride, their attitude was, "Ooh, well, fuck him. That's what he gets for living in San Francisco," because they hated that city for some reason. I don't know why. My father, who was a wonderful guy, said, "Hey, I can help you a little bit, but this is life. You can't move back in with me." And I didn't want to. I wanted to move on my own. I didn't have any relationship with my mother at that time. And so I had this task of not only, fucking support myself, but also get all of the gear working again, and then continue working with these artists that, I had these big business guys that had these expectations. And that was a really fucking trying, I want to say 6 months, but it's all such a blur right now. I was couch surfing. I had some gear at different people's houses, and I'd have soldering irons and just, try to go in and replace whatever was burnt out or broken. And sort of started to get, I was doing odd jobs. I was doing construction. And then there was this one moment, which was one of the most humbling or humiliating moments of my life, where I was just desperate. I was broke. And I said, "You know what? You got to go just swallow your pride and go get a job at a Guitar Center." This is the same Guitar Center that I bought that first guitar. And I walked in there, and as I walked in, there was this big group of people that rushed up to me because I was on the cover of a guitar magazine that month.
Wow.
And they wanted autographs. And they're, oh my God, we love your album. Could you please autograph this for me? I was in there to ask for a job. And
wait, this, what the fuck? I mean, the guy on the cover of the magazine is homeless and coming
desperate.
into us. Wow. You would never, I mean, when you see a magazine cover, this is never what you would imagine, right?
Yeah. And I put on the smile, and I was humiliated. I couldn't ask for a job. I could not bring myself to say. And so I walked out of there, and I don't know, somehow it worked out. Eventually, and I'm still not really quite sure how this happened. Somehow, because this just happens in the United States, they'll mail you a credit card.
Mm.
Like, here's a credit card, you have $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
And like, wow, okay, I guess I can get a place now at least.
Mm.
And my mother is a real estate agent. And she said, well, they have these low interest, low down payment loan things right now. Mm. And with this amount of money, you could get another loan to put a down payment on a house and actually buy a house. What do you think? Okay, fuck it. Fucking like make this happen. Mm. So I ended up buying it was a jazz club that had a fire. Mm. And so it was really, really cheap, and it was in a terrible neighborhood. Nobody wanted it. I ended up buying the fucking thing. And I had 1 month to, because what happened is, okay, so I got like a proper bank loan, but then I had a second loan, which was being carried by the old owner. So I had 2 loans plus the credit card loan. And the only way I was going to be able to handle the all of that was by somehow increasing the value of the place enough so that I could refinance, have it reappraised. So I said, okay, first thing I have to do is fix the fire damage. Mm. So I started doing that. But at the same time, I had to fix all the recording studio stuff. And at the same time, I had to work with all the artists that I was working with. And at the same time, had to operate as a business to pay my first fucking mortgage. Mm. So what did I do? Meth.
Yeah.
How else are you going to stay up?
You stay awake.
I was like, okay, because like it ruined San Francisco, but no, I can totally handle this shit. Uh-huh. So I would stay up for 48 hours at a time, painting and doing construction, and then recording this guy in the morning, and then working on this guy in the evening, and then I did that for like a month, and I actually fucking did it.
Uh-huh. Just saved by meth.
Yeah, and it was hard to quit, but oh God, that stuff is evil.
But yeah, so you're crushed by meth because of that idiot that you lived with, and then that's the stuff that gets you out of trouble.
Yeah, and then, but I mean, it was such a intensely stressful time. Mm. I don't know. I mean, looking back on it now, maybe I would have taken a different path. But when you don't have that many options, even if it's an extreme thing, you can say, "Okay, fuck it. I've already lost everything." Right? Yeah. So I managed to get on my feet and sober, and then ran this place as a business. But I mean, it was in a terrible neighborhood. I was burglarized constantly. Mm. Everything cars stolen, motorcycles stolen, broken in, I think 7 or 8, 9 times, something like that. Mm. Even while I was there were people fucking trying to kick the door in, and just hated it. No social life. And eventually, the artists that I was working with that were signed, there were some personality problems, which happens. And then ended up being just a recording studio owner for many, many years, just living in Oakland, which certainly was not my dream, but it was like, well, fuck it, at least it's a job.
Yeah, and you're involved in the industry somehow. I mean, like you've always been, music since you're 3. I mean, like piano, better or worse, but...
Yeah, but I mean, making like life choices under duress is always, if you end up in an acceptable place, great. But this was certainly not how I would have planned it.
No, but in some way you take like a sidestep on your, let's say, your personal music career. I mean, I know that you've always been playing and composing music and recording music for yourself, but I guess at this time, maybe this was for the best, because when Nirvana came and the whole grunge thing, it's as we mentioned a little bit earlier. I mean, it's a game changer. It's just a lead guitarist like you that is technically gifted and able to play fast and solos and stuff. There was just no demand.
Well, I found out yesterday, there was a demand. There was just never an artificially propped up a business around it. So like you would see all of the grunge bands that were being featured in magazines and thinking like, oh, well, that's just what people are buying these days. But people like Satriani and Steve Vai and Testament and Slayer, they weren't suffering. They were
no, but some of those bands. I mean, maybe not necessarily those, at least that you mentioned. But I mean, I remember. I think I told you about it, that Ronnie James Dio from Black Sabbath. He made an album trying to be more grunge. Like and you could see this. There was a lot of big bands and big musicians that were trying to kind of chase this direction somehow, and most of them failed miserably.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that as well. Running a recording studio, I would have bands coming in all the time. Guys that I knew, like, the guys from Exodus came in with this new band and this new look and this, new vibe and the new lyrical concept and trying to chase that fashion, which always seemed so contrived to me. I never did that. I never tried to chase fashion. But it never really occurred to me. I was always taught that whatever pop music was, with that, it somehow tapped into a vein of popular culture, somehow resonates with the general public. But it doesn't necessarily. It doesn't have, like, what you perceive as pop music is really just an elaborate marketing campaign, but it doesn't mean that people don't still listen and seek out. What I discovered eventually was that heavy metal was alive and well, but without the constraints of big business trying to dictate how they would look and how they would write songs, that they were liberated and that they just said, okay, well, I'm just going to make music that's good for me. And then went along that path, and the people that liked heavy metal still went to the concerts, and the festivals are massive.
Yeah, and you see it here in Prague, for example. I mean, the heavy metal scene is huge. I mean, like the black metal, death metal, whatever, it all comes here.
Yeah, and it takes something like Brutal Assault, which is a huge metal festival. You would have no idea something like that exists if you just watched.
You need to look for it. It's not pushed at you.
And so that's what I discovered. Like these people didn't go away. They were no longer on children's television advertisements. It was yeah. So,
but I'm I don't know. I've been very curious about this because. I do listen to a lot of music podcasts. I read about music, and I've always been fascinated by that industry and all of that. And it's kind of, I mean, I remember this time when Nirvana came and the grunge and all that changed, and I didn't see it because I wasn't part of the business. It was just, wow, more great music. And like you said, I remember exactly where I was at a nightclub in Iceland when I heard that song first, Smells Like Teen Spirit. And I went straight to the DJ and said, what is this? Give me that, But what I've realized later on is that this was such a big change. It was like, I just one fucking song or one band, one album just changed the game. And I often thought about it, like, where did that come from? Why did we go from more like a polished guitar solos, glossy clothing and lipsticks and whatever rock and roll was until that day, out of what does this come, you know? I mean, they're out of Seattle. They're all on heroin or whatever the fuck it is that they're doing there. But there is something that must have caused this. And I often thought, is it because the end of the Cold War? You know, was there some sort of a transition, global transition or a cultural transition that was happening that moved people into this direction? Both the ones that created the music and the ones that were willing to receive it somehow. I don't know. I mean, I'm just shooting blanks here somehow.
Well, there was there was an honesty and sincerity about Kurt Cobain and the things that he wrote about. But to assume that metal musicians were incapable of that is a mistake. That they were pushed into becoming cliches of themselves. This, you know, high kick, lipstick wearing, fuzzy headed dude was being pushed in that direction by the record company because they're thinking like, oh, well, this is what the kids want. But to assume that that person was incapable of singing a song about something real, about his addictions or about his fears or something, that's ridiculous. Of course he could. But he was never given that opportunity because it wasn't considered marketable. And if he was to deliver a song, hey, this is about, you know, my grandfather's death, they'd say, oh, fuck you. We have this other song. It's called Kiss My Lips. Sing it like that with a pucker and sing it into the, you know what I mean? So you had talented musicians back then, or a ton of talented musicians. But they were never given a chance to go in that direction. Now, in like when I was talking about when I was in high school, when I would sit with these other great musicians and be jamming with them, it was never about, oh, this guy's got something new to offer, so I'm just going to leave. You would say, wow, this guy's, you know, his chord changes are so interesting. I have to learn. How is that going to change how I express my music? And there's no reason to assume that, you know, Kip Winger couldn't have evolved into the as music fashion had changed. I'm sure he's got great stories to tell as a songwriter. But he was never given that chance. Instead,
so it's the indie part of Nirvana, maybe that's the thing, that Nirvana kind of came out of nowhere and they created their stuff actually before they became big. Well, in some way,
some dude came around and he spoke a word like Jesus. He said something and everybody went, "Oh yeah, I like that. Let's follow this guy." And everybody else before that was speaking propaganda from the emperor. Yeah. And
just a replica of what had been said earlier, and the industry wanted you to say.
Yeah, but there was as soon as the industry found value in this simple Kurt Cobain Jesus,
then it was ruined in a way.
Yeah, they started. Well, first they started finding replicas, and then they beat it to fucking death. And all the other guys, you know, fucking Def Leppard sold 12 million records.
Yeah. But and I saw them here 2 years ago, and they were fucking great.
Great band, of course.
Yeah, amazing band.
But to imagine that you have a band that's 12 million records, and now they can't get their calls answered. I mean, what the fuck kind of industry does that?
Yeah.
But
talking about that, I mean, I know that you've had a music career after all of this, and you kind of went back into music. I mean, you've had more bands and you've toured with musicians like Duran, Queens of the Stone Age, and so on. But if we just talk a little bit about the music industry, because in some way, you know, as an outsider from this, and the state of it today, you know, like the perception that I think a lot of people have is that the internet, YouTube, Spotify, and this digital access, and both on the, let's say, publishing or distribution side, or getting your music out to the listeners, as well as all the tools. I mean, as I told you before we started recording, I mean, I'm a middle-aged idiot that has no technical knowledge, and I'm still able here to set up and record and edit a podcast and upload it and do everything. 20 years ago, this would have been out of the question. Now, the same is with music. You have Pro Tools, you have home studios, you have all the, guitar pedals and all the synthesizers and everything, all the sound effects, all of it is in the computer. I mean, I could probably create an album just with my Mac, nothing else. And so we're kind of, the impression that this gives is that, it's an open field, everybody, it's a fair playing ground, everybody has a chance. Is it like that?
It's a deep question. Yeah, I mean, technologically speaking, it's a great time to be a musician. The thing about music industry, let's say in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, is we had gatekeepers. We had people that were quality control. Bill Graham, for example, as I mentioned earlier, was one of these people. Clive Davis, who discovered a lot of the artists that we know today. Quincy Jones. These were talented, intelligent, hardworking businessmen that were able to make great music and then parlay that into a business. But as the decades wore on and the industry became more of a parody of itself, and then they realized that, well, quality isn't really that important. I mean, we can just release 20 bands and maybe one of them will stick, and we don't have to have a great album. We just need one great song and the rest can be filler. And so the business fumbled, and we all suffered because of it. Now that anybody can make an album, and anybody does make an album, and there aren't really that many gatekeepers. At least there aren't gatekeepers for every single genre of music. That what's happened is that these other businesses have popped up that are making money from the musicians. So that musicians like, well, I wanted to, I've got this song and I want the whole world to hear it. So there are these companies that say, hey, pay us, we'll put you on these playlists, pay us and we'll get you on these TV shows, or you'll have your music being played at the mall. And so instead of, the musicians have become, they're no longer the product, they become the consumer in a way. And so in that way, I do kind of miss having a kind of a gatekeeper. Now we have with these shows like American Idol, like you're gonna fucking sing karaoke. You got to be one out of a billion people. But that paradigm used to work, on an individual scale, separate from genre to genre.
But who is making money today? Because, you don't make money from selling albums anymore. Even if you have 1 million downloads on Spotify or whatever, or 1 million listens, you maybe get a check of $1,000, right?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting thing. You're not going to make money from Spotify, but you can make quite a lot of money from selling your stuff. For example, if you have 1 million downloads on Spotify,
then you can sell T-shirts.
You can sell T-shirts. You can certainly sell concert tickets. If you manage your tour well, if you have a good band and you can tolerate each other for long periods of time, you can make a lot of money on tour. And if you do a proper tour, then you don't have to share that with the record company that's taking close to 90%. That's all yours. So even though you might not get an infusion of cash, you can have a very consistent kind of a lifestyle. Certainly one that pays for itself, and certainly better than, working at the market. But I mean, what started as a guy who had a funny idea for a song and strummed it away on his acoustic guitar, which then got exploited by, business people all the world. Now you're that business guy. You have to write the song, record it yourself. It has to be good enough so that it can be shared worldwide, but you have to manage your own finances. You have to do your own tours, your own art, your own videos. And so every individual has become that media mogul. And what we've discovered is that anything can be good. There's that one video, I forget the name of the band, but the video is just this dude. He's like a security guard, and he's just dancing. Yeah,
it's Black Keys. Smoke. No, I don't remember what. Yeah, it's Black Keys song. It's great. He never actually. That video is one of my favorite videos because he never lifts a leg off the ground. He stands. There is no oxygen between his heels or his sole of a shoe and the floor. He stands in the same, but he dances the whole song. I fucking love that song.
And it's magnetic. And can you imagine trying to get RCA Records to release that video?
Yeah, never.
Like, hey, check it out. No, it's really cool. They go, no. Put more lipstick on the guy. Fluff his hair out a little bit. We need more naked girls. Get the naked girls in here. And, this video is going to cost you $250,000 now, which then is going to come out of your income. So
Lonely Boy.
Yeah, exactly. Great song.
Lonely Boy. That's a great song. But yeah, so in some way, everybody has to know everything now. But you would then, in this current environment, nobody would tolerate 6 years of producing an album and pay that cost, right?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, you're the timeline of the creative process isn't really relevant until you release something. But you don't have to release a full album now. Whereas back in the 1990s, you were selling on physical media. You had to put it on a CD or a cassette or something. So it has to be a full album.
And you had to fill the space, capacity of that medium.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, it wasn't considered a long play album, and it was classified differently, which meant that your revenue was different, which is, you could just release a single now. And you know what? If you record it on your iPhone and you do a video of you sitting on the toilet and that's it, if it's good, if it somehow resonates with people, then that's a finished product and that's it. That's done. And that's actually really beautiful. But to find out what that thing is that resonates with people, wow, how do you do that?
Yeah, and that's also like you're kind of, it's like emailing to God. You know, there are so many people doing it that you never know if you're going to get through or if you're going to be at the right place at the right time. And I just know from this podcast because I haven't, my girlfriend told me, she's a marketing person, like by nature and branding, and she you have to use the right fonts, and I don't give a shit about this stuff. I just want to record with people that I find interesting, and then I'll put it on the air. If people like it, they will listen. If they don't like it, fuck that. It's their problem. They can listen to something else then. But I have learned it that, okay, if I really want to reach something with this, if I would want this to become something else than just me having a hobby, I would have to put in a lot of work, a lot of hours, and I still don't really have any guarantee. So I'm thinking, okay, would it be better if some agency or a record company took me on their arms and said, okay, we're going to invest this in your image, this in your brand, we're going to wrap you up in... I would wear spandex if they wanted me to, and even a lipstick. And I'm thinking, okay, so is it actually better now than, like you said, there were gatekeepers. There were some people that let people into the kingdom somehow. Like they decided, okay, this is good music, this is good stuff, this is what we need, this is what we want. And they really gave it a chance. Instead of now, I have a feeling there is 1 million people out there doing something half-heartedly, Well,
there's also this, whatever your idea of what success is, ask yourself, where did you get that from? Did that come from your idea, like when you were growing up, that you would be a superstar and that you'd have millions of fans and you would tour the world. And is that what success is? Because success, it has changed a lot. Because without a record company, without you having to give up 90% of your revenue and your artistic control to some corporate entity, you can do, first of all, whatever you want. And that if you're able to break even, and I mean, let's think, what are your recording costs? Nothing. What does it cost to tour? Well, it's transportation, musicians, a couple of fucking crew. Very low. So you can break even by, I don't know, like say, like sell 1,000 vinyls. Your entire process has paid for itself, and that means that you can continue. And if all you do is market to those to that little audience
that actually likes you, yeah,
then you're making a living doing this. And then this is a niche thing. Like for me, I do rock music. And there's certain type of demographic, certain people that are rock music fans that are easy to reach. They go to live concerts, they buy T-shirts.
They're a very active crowd, I think. Rock.
Very much so. And if they like one song, they'll buy your whole back catalog. They want to know you personally, and they're devoted fans. Yeah. But let's take like another genre, like let's say like electronic music, that let's say you've created a beat that is fantastic and people love it, and you're somehow able to go, I don't know, play festivals or something like that. It's an entirely different business model that I'm not even really aware of. I'm not sure how it works. But for somebody that does that kind of thing, for you to discover that process and then become an entrepreneur and have a handle on that it's not this insurmountable thing. It's entirely possible. And that you can, at that point, say that your success is not based off of some gatekeeper, but it's based off of your talent and your ability to do the business properly. And that means you're empowered. And for the first fucking time,
you're working for yourself.
Yeah.
You're in charge.
You're not being exploited.
Yeah.
And maybe you're not going to be working with Madonna next week, but you're not working at the petrol station, you know?
And I mean, and that's what you've done. I mean, since this, I mean, I know you had, you were in this band with that woman. What was the name of that band again? Sorry.
Snake River Conspiracy.
Yeah, Snake River Conspiracy. And you toured with another band, this Monster.
Yeah, we did a lot of tours. We were out with Monster Magnet, Queens of the Stone Age.
Duran.
That was a different band. That was the band Stimulator. We were out with Filter, Farouk Assault. So this was like the year 2000, 2002 or 2003 or something. That record, it was called Sonic Jihad. It was out on Reprise, Warner Brothers. And then all the usual accoutrements, MTV, music videos. We did one music video with the director Gregory Dark, who did the Britney Spears video, actually ex-porn producer, the Dark Brothers. Really interesting guy. I have some stories about him. Nice guy. Hey, actually, Gregory, if you're listening, I've been trying to look you up. Reach out.
This is wanted porn producer. But this, like, because you said somewhere in an interview, I'm actually gonna quote you here. So after everything was over, and I think you're saying this after T-Ride, because I guess that's kind of like that was the rocket. That was the rocket that was gonna hit the moon. You know.
Yep.
You say adjusting to civilian life was quite difficult for me, and I made a lot of missteps. Burning bridges, drug use, investing my time in loser musical projects, accidents and injuries. A whole lot of shit luck made for a lot of hard lessons learned. I suppose you can't become wise until you fuck up royally once or twice. By that metric, I'm a fucking genius.
I should put that and make that into a lyric.
Yeah, I like this. But I mean, when was it that you kind of, I mean, I don't know, you get here to Prague. I don't know, when is that? When did you move here to Prague?
2007.
And that's when you kind of really take your solo career in a way that it becomes Geoff Tyson Band. It becomes you, right?
This is yes, absolutely. There was another band in the interim there from 2005. No, sorry, 2003 to 2006. I played in this band called Stimulator. Stimulator was my creation with singer Susan Hyatt, and it was like a pop hard rock band.
Mm.
And it was I think it was fine. It was good.
That's the band that covered. No, that's not the one with the cover song.
We did a cover of Magic by Olivia Newton-John.
Uh-huh.
And the band was actually quite successful. This is the band that toured with Duran Duran, with the Go-Go's. We played some shows with Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
We were on Universal Records. We had songs licensed in Disney movies. I mean, but we did this independently. We did all this ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
The music itself was very, how would you say? Like it was very planned. It was designed to be a pop, heavy rock project that was designed to feature this girl Susan, and it was. I think we did a very good job, but that there were a lot of let's say personalities that I'm trying to be diplomatic.
No, don't, you don't have to. You're drinking your third beer. Stop that. This is why I gave you the beer.
Yeah, Susan was she's a good friend of mine and I adore her, but she was very abrasive. She was full on woman power and God bless her. But if any man tried to give her advice or to suggest something that might work better in a business capacity, that she would burn that bridge. I mean, it was with fucking fireballs. She was very hot-headed. And we lost a lot of business potential from that. And as I was the producer, co-songwriter, guitar player, I can obviously sing myself as well. And so when I wanted to break out and go solo, I thought, like, why do if I'm going to leave this project, I'm going to leave the design stuff as well. I'm not going to try to contrive this. I'm not going to try to make pop music anymore. Like, why do I need to try to cater to some asshole in a suit? And these guys don't even know what the fuck they're doing anyway. And this was right around the time that the record companies were dying because of file sharing, and they were
Napster and all that.
They were rats on a sinking ship. I remember we had the president of what was it, Def Jam, or what record label was it? I forget. It was one of the major record labels. Was in my studio, sitting on the floor. He's in a 3-piece suit. He's sitting on the floor. Like, I have a couch. You can sit on the couch. He's sitting on the floor. And he loosened his tie, and he just had his hand in his head, like, what the fuck am I going to do? What am I going to do? And he was talking about file sharing. And the reason that they couldn't put a control on it is because all the major record companies could not agree on a watermark technology. They have the technology that works to stop it.
It's not a unified standard.
But they would refuse to agree on it. And so rats on a fucking sinking ship, it all went straight into the fucking toilet. And so I thought, okay, I'm certainly not going to chase this fucking dragon. These guys don't know what the fuck they're doing. So I thought, I'm going to go and just dude with an acoustic guitar. Fuck the United States. You can't tour there. It's too expensive. How the fuck are you going to get a gig if you're not on the radio? So let's go somewhere where it's back in time. Let's go to Central Europe. Let's go to Eastern Europe. And so when I first came here, I was just a dude with a guitar. But I didn't really know how it worked here. So I had that album that I released in 2006. And had an acoustic tour version of that. And I traveled on the train for 3.5 months. I played every street corner and pub and cafe and hotel lobby and just country after country after city for city, and just to see what Europe was like and what there was to offer. And I figured, like, hey, I'm an American guy with a guitar. How hard is it going to be to meet people? Well, apparently it was very, very easy. And I have friends all over Europe now. And in each city, I discovered things that were positive and negative that eventually influenced my choice to move and settle in Prague. Prague had a good combination of a young music scene, potential to get on the radio. The audiences are there. The clubs are good. The technology's good. The musicians are fantastic. It's a pretty city. It's not too expensive.
Safe.
Yeah. And it reminded me of San Francisco in the early 1990s. It had all of the potential, but it wasn't so full of itself that it knew it had that potential.
Yeah, I actually, when you say this, I came 2 years after you, and I that's actually a very good way to describe it. It's the potential is there, but people are not snobby about it or bragging about. You know what I mean? They're not full of themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just so endearing to me to I'd be playing with this. There was this gypsy father and son. These genius guitar players, and I'm just jamming with them at a club one day, just going like, "Fucking hell, these guys are astounding!" And we're playing to 30 people. We didn't organize this; we just started playing, and people just started coming and showing up. And it was actually it was a little pub on Deloha. It didn't last very long. It was called the Soffit Bar. I think it held maybe 25 people. We had that bar packed to the fucking limit every day. I would say 50, 60 people squeezing into that little fucking place. No sound system. And it wasn't, we didn't even have songs. We would just play whatever. We would play Billie Jean, Michael Jackson, but do a gypsy version of it. And then, but people just adored it. And it was this incredible experience. And thinking about how impossible that would have been in Hollywood, because Hollywood is too full of themselves. They'd say like, oh, he's a gypsy. I don't know if I can, it doesn't fit my personal brand. And then, other things like I just one day wrote a song. And I met this fashion photographer guy at a pub. And he's like, "Oh, it's a pretty cool song. Let's do a video." So I called my friend who's a supermodel. We just sort of showed up and he says, "Well, I don't know, kind of do this, do that, whatever." Edited a video together, went viral. Boom. I started getting calls from all over Europe. They said, "This is beautiful. We want you to headline the Balaton Music Festival in Hungary." Like literally.
Which is a huge festival.
It's huge. And one of the biggest festivals in Europe. Headlining on a Saturday night. And they said, "What's the name of your band?" Geoff Tyson Band.
That's how Geoff Tyson Band was born.
Yeah, that's how it, and I didn't even have the players. And so I called those gypsy guys and I said, "Hey, you want to go on tour?"
Got a gig.
Got a manager soon after that, and then pretty soon, we were everywhere, magazine covers, and that's what I meant. It had all the potential. All you had to do
was reach out to people. Yeah,
it was like that thing where you would just have a cassette and you send it to the manager, and the manager likes it and just pulls that switch, and suddenly, and.
But that's the interesting thing, because I've had some musicians on this podcast before. I had Johnny Youngblood and Marley Wild Thing and Tonya Graves, and what all of them said, and what I've seen also, is that it's super easy to get stuff done here through like friends and I will help you, and we'll make a video, and it's not gonna cost you $1 million. It's basically favors and you just take me for dinner one time or something, and that's great because
they're good. They're talented.
Yeah. But apart from that, everyone is talented, and they all just want to promote themselves. Everybody's willing to participate, it's such a great thing, and it's actually interesting because people here, the natives, are quite closed in general, but when it comes to these kind of things, they're all there. They're all willing to help and be part of something.
Yeah, the Czechs love art. It's a big part of their culture. And they especially love working with other talented people. If you give them an opportunity, every instance that I've had, that everybody shined so brightly, and it's just been really fantastic experience. And I think, like, what would that be like in Los Angeles?
It would never happen.
Yeah, it would be some guy who's like he was shooting a reality TV show during the day, and he's pissed off and angry, like, why did I go to art school for this shit? And then he shows up your video, whatever, where do I point the camera? Oh, fuck this,
But so over these years, I mean, you released 3 albums that are, at least I found 3 on Spotify that I've listened to, and I know there is more material because you told me before we started recording that some of it was taken down, it would be uploaded again. But 2 of them are, I would say, I don't know how to, I don't want to classify it as something specific. I would just say kind of rock music. But the latest one, Drinks with Infinity, that came out last year, 2020. That's more like a guitar album. I mean, it's really shows how good you are, or great you are as a guitar player. I mean, I would put this album in a category of, Joe Satriani albums, and this, it's that kind of thing. And then when I was listening to this and I started kind of, investigating you and talking to you and so on, then I thought about like this. These guitar heroes, they are often lone rangers somehow. They seem to work best when they are in total control of what they're doing. If Joe Satriani, he's been in some bands. He's been in this Chicken Food with Sammy Hagar from Van Halen and some Mark Anthony or whatever. Mark Anthony, right?
Michael Anthony.
Michael Anthony,
yeah.
Sorry, and the drummer from Chili Peppers.
Chili Peppers, yeah.
And then Steve Vai was in Whitesnake. Did 1 album with them, I think. Toured with them. Marty Friedman, Megadeth, 1 album, some tour. Yngwie Malmsteen, and I mean, obviously there are good guitar players in bands as well, like, a lot of them, most of them are good, actually, all of them. But those kind of guys that are, everybody knows those names. Anyone that knows anything about rock music will know those names. Why are they not in bands? Does a genius not fit in?
Well, there can be a lot of reasons. Like, I would say someone like Nuno Bettencourt is an amazing player. He's in a band, Extreme. At the same time, he plays with Rihanna. So what's the difference between those two things? Rihanna is a gig. Rihanna is a pay by the week kind of a thing. But what does Nuno do when he's not on tour with Rihanna? He's still Nuno. He's still an artist, and he's still going to create stuff. And in my understanding of, for example, like Satriani he's a brilliant musician, but he's a businessman, and that his contribution to something like Chicken Foot, he's gaining as much from an association with Sammy Hagar as Sammy Hagar would be getting from Satriani. And that any kind of love the public is giving to that band is going to be commensurate with how much time he's going to give to it. He's got a fan base that he doesn't need Sammy Hagar for that. Maybe in Chicken Foot he's going to cross over and find some new fans. Maybe not. Maybe he'll have a hit. Maybe he won't. But in a case like Steve Vai or Yngwie Malmsteen, it's like, yeah, I'll play on your album. I'll be in your video. I'll do the tour. It's a job. But unless I've got a #1 hit that's going to eclipse the career that I've already built for myself,
there's no reason
why would I devote 100% of my time to it? It's like, I will play in the band as much as is necessary And if it's successful, I'll continue. But, you know, this is what kind of project is going to eclipse the career that Joe Satriani has had?
That's a good point, actually. It's a fair point. But how is it, Geoff? Like, I mean, if you take soccer, for example, you have Messi and Ronaldo and what's his name? That guy in Paris, Neymar, and you know, like these are the big guys. And then, you know, in the basketball, you got like LeBron and Kobe Bryant, and there's this rivalry. How is that with the guitar heroes? Like, would Steve Vai hang out with Joe Satriani?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they would share skills. Basically, if you are worried that somebody's going to steal your thunder, then your thunder isn't thunder. No. Your thunder is a little wispy little fart. That your skills have to be so immense or so personalized that you can share every last fucking skill that you have and still be unique. I actually had an interesting conversation with Satriani last year. I went to go see him in Budapest. And so we were backstage. And he was talking, he said that now with the internet, he would release an album. And 2 days later, there's some 9 or 10-year-old South Korean girl
that has picked up all the songs,
who has played the entire album note for note and uploaded it to YouTube.
Yeah.
And with all of the same vibrato and techniques, everything is there.
Yeah.
And he says, like, that your physical skills are, they're a novelty at best and irrelevant. In reality, the only thing that really matters is your ability to write a song that people can connect to. Can you write a song? Apparently, this Korean girl cannot.
No, but she's copy. Yeah.
Not yet. But that Satriani's success does not come from his physical prowess. His success came from melodies and chord progressions and rhythms that are unique. And in that way, no, nobody can copy that. That's his style.
So he's not afraid of showing it off to others. And being friends with...
Yeah, and much in the same way that, you know, I could say I have an idea for a song and show it to you. You still wouldn't be able to steal it. You know, and like with Steve Vai, he has a very different writing style from Satriani, different than Al Di Meola, different from Nino Bettencourt. Each of these guys has this sort of signature thing that they gravitate towards. And even if you could copy them, you couldn't do it as good as they did. And then you'd say, okay, you failed to copy Satriani. Bravo. Thanks. Great. You know?
But when I started listening to your music, I mean, I was actually... So this mutual friend that we had is a great girl that knows a lot about music and a lot about musicians in Prague.
Hi, Alona.
And she told me, there's this great guy that you need to talk to, Geoff Tyson. He's some guitar hero, you know, and you know he's been in bands and sex, drugs, and rock and roll and blah blah blah. And I said, okay, cool, you know, and I was like, why would, you know, like, how could I get close to that kind of guy? And then when I checked your page, I started looking at the videos, I started looking at the interviews and so on, and I was like, okay, so you're basically up there in that category. I mean, you're one of those guys, and I can see. I mean, you know, I found you on fronts of, I don't know, 15, 16 different guitar magazines and stuff like that. And that new album, Drinks with Infinity, is very much, as I said earlier, like a guitar album, but it's not as it's more digestible somehow, I felt. But then when I read the lyrics or the names of the songs, they are very kind of outlandish, a lot of them. So what's the inspiration for all this? I mean, where does this come from?
Well, this the idea to do an instrumental album was something I've been resisting for many years. Satriani's been just bugging me, just fucking do an instrumental album, a guitar album. But, you know, I'm a vocal-oriented guy. I like pop music. Like I was saying earlier, when I had started learning how to write songs, I was gravitating more towards Motown. So when I finally went to go actually do an instrumental record, it was a very new paradigm for me. And actually what happened is I wrote 13 or 14 songs in the traditional method that I do, and tried to do lead guitar over those, and they were just terrible. It just didn't work. That the technique of writing vocal music for me does not work while writing instrumental stuff. So I scrapped all of it and just started again from zero. And my intention was to reconnect with this guitar primally and emotionally, and that it has to be like going back to that first time I heard Van Halen. What was it about that, the energy, that it wasn't a logical energy? There was something in there. There was some fucking animal hormones in there. And I said that in order for me to get into that frame of mind, I had to turn off my record producer, my internal editor, my guy that the songwriter in me has to shut the fuck up for a bit.
So you basically dialed back 30 years more, in a way.
I think what I did was I started every song as an improvisation. I had no idea what I was going to play. I would put up a drum beat, turn it up loud, put on the guitar, and then just play. And every song, with, well, maybe one or two exceptions, the songs on there started out as improvisations, so much so that there are pieces of every song that include that original improvised take, where I said, okay, I played this thing and okay, that's the song. That's what it's going to be. But I'm not going to fix it. Is the guitar out of tune? I don't care. Is it perfectly on beat? I don't care. That encompasses that energy. I'm not going to fix it. I'm not going to refine it. I'm going to build the song around it. And so after that initial improvisation was done, and then approaching it like a producer and saying, okay, well, I can do the arrangement of the instruments around it so that this part is featured, for example, and then do overdubs. So after I figured out that was how this album was going to go, the process actually went fairly quickly. And as it started to become more apparent, like what it was going to be as an album, and I was thinking about song titles, it's instrumental, so I thought, well, it doesn't really matter what the song titles are. It could be anything. I had been keeping a collection of funny song titles just from hanging out at pubs with my international friends, and as people who don't speak English as a first language will sometimes say very funny phrases, and I would just take out the phone and write them down. And these are some of those phrases.
Like strawberry napalm, shag, monkey love, liquid kitty. It's cool stuff. And are you gonna make another guitar album, or is this a one-off?
I'm progressing in this direction of primal improvisation for my next album, but I'm going to include vocals on the next one. It's taken me a little bit of soul searching to figure out how to improvise lyrics and vocals, because I'm determined that I will not sit in the studio doing a vocal track. Every vocal that I've written and performed so far on the album that I'm working on has been an improvised one take thing, including the lyrics. And that
so it's quite raw.
It's extremely raw, and then building the track around it. So it's really the same artistic mentality as this instrumental album, but I'm just adding my vocal textures in there as well. And this has been a big psychological challenge for me over the years. Again, going back to what we talked about, record company branding and fashion and stuff, and how that has really inflicted and restricted my ability to express myself lyrically and as a singer, because I'm always thinking about, well, what do people want to hear? And how am I going to express? How am I going to brand myself? And all of this stuff that just, it's just been a rock in my shoe of creativity. And finally having done this instrumental album and proven to myself that I can abandon that mentality completely and do something good without really suffering through the process. So now I'm basically just continuing in that vibe, but just adding the vocal elements as well. So, and again, the process it's happening very quickly. I'm demoing, I think, song number 8 now. So it's coming along nicely.
So you have those 3 albums. I have them in front of me. Drinks with Infinity, that's the latest one. Then there is Inominandum. Is that correctly said? Inominandum.
Yeah, that's right.
What does that mean? Inominandum.
Nominandum was explained to me as being the island of knowledge has no roads. Or the island of wisdom has no roads.
That's deep. And then the third one that I have here is Slow Mad Descent. That's from 2006-07. That's yeah. And like, so you've basically since 15 you've been a rock star in a way, like, or like a musician.
Yeah, and that lifestyle.
Yeah, lifestyle, and you've been in this industry, and you've out of need, the necessity, you kind of built a side career as an engineer. I mean, like, yeah, so you're both self-sufficient in a way as a musician, but you're also able to, make money on the side of different things. And I see, like, because, I grew up on rock and roll, Kiss and Metallica, Iron Maiden, all these bands, and then, into death metal and so on. And every year that passes, like, I see more and more of my heroes retire, and I don't see a lot of new ones coming in somehow. I'm thinking, and I can see that, for example, Gene Simmons from Kiss, he's been saying it now like for a while, and I don't know, maybe he gets money every time he says it or whatever, or it's a hot take, so it gets him attention. He says rock and roll is dead. And
fuck Gene Simmons and fuck his pseudo wisdom. How about that? Hey, Gene Simmons, go fuck yourself. Your time to shut up is long past.
Yeah.
And okay, first of all, finish what you're saying.
No. I'm just. I mean, and then now we had just. I mean, I know that we are recording this now here in the end of May end of May, and we might be airing this in August or July or something, and there's just this recent thing where the bass player of Megadeth was expelled from the band because of a masturbation video with, as far as what we have heard now, and we're talking about this based on what we know today, with a consenting woman of a legal age, and he's kicked out of the band, and if you look at all this kind of, where things are going kind of publicly, cancel culture and all these things. I mean, there are phrases around all this, and I don't know what is what and what is not. But is it, can you be like, I don't know, like Van Halen, if we take them as an example, because that's your band. I mean, they did breaks in their concert with a drum fill so that the rest of the band could go and get a blowjob and do a line of coke. Can you do that today?
Well, I'm sure you can find people to consent to that. Of course, it's human nature. People like excess. People like to be crazy. And that, rock and roll is, first of all, rock and roll is not dead. Rock and roll is the manifestation of a certain emotion. That emotion, whether it is a desire to break away or to party or to be fucking crazy, reckless, or whatever aspect of your personality that won't come out while you're sitting in the office all day, and you put on your warrior clothes and your leather and your fucking studs.
I have a battle vest, with all the patches.
Yeah.
I put it on when I go on concerts.
And you go out at night and you let that primal aspect of your personality come out. That is what rock and roll is. If you had a bunch of kids on a desert island with no access to pop music or instruments or anything, you give them a coconut and a bone from an antelope, they will make music that expresses that primal aspect, and they will create music that represents them emotionally. Rock and roll has roots from the blues which was created from pain, from oppression. That rock and roll, as Gene Simmons is talking about, is the rock and roll fashion, like the guitar tones, the style of the rhythm, all of that is fucking irrelevant. That's just fashion. That rock and roll attitude, the next generation, it might be some girl sitting in a village in Ukraine in her garage. The only instrument that's available to her is a balalaika or an old drum machine. But she's going to take that and with that express the rock and roll that she has inside of her. It may not be texturally what we expect, but she's going to be the next generation of of this genre, and it will. I mean, that's what rock and roll is. It has evolved from these certain roots. It's gone through these different changes from Black Sabbath to Led Zeppelin to hair metal, and now it's branched off in all these different things with that emotion. That this Gene Simmons cunt thinks so. Okay, well, no, all of that's irrelevant. Now it's dead. Fuck that guy. Fuck him straight up his fucking makeup asshole.
Do you think he wears makeup there as well?
Actually, I'd never thought about it until now. Now I'm kind of upset that I'm thinking about it.
But
do you feel me like that?
Yeah. It's an evolution in a way. I mean, or musically, it's an evolution.
It's a frame of mind, and it's an expression of an emotion.
Yeah, but it could be expressed like you're saying. I don't know. 20 years ago, it was a 4-piece, or 30 years ago, 4-piece. Bass, guitar, drums, and a singer. In 10 years from now, it could be a different instrument, but it's the same emotion that is being expressed, or a state of mind.
Yeah, and if somebody writes a song like, "Hey, I'm going to go out, I'm going to get drunk, I'm going to go party, I'm going to get in a fist fight," and that song, that emotional context of that song, is still rock and roll.
Yeah, but you mentioned earlier when we were talking about this "Fuck You" song, would never have passed through the filters of the
CeeLo. What's a CeeLo Green?
Yeah.
Is that his name?
And if you take now, like, people are being removed from platforms, that, we're going to shut down this guy's Twitter because his opinions or his ideas don't fit with the mainstream. Do you think that this could happen with music? That simply some music, I mean, it's been tried. I mean, they put censorship stickers on music in the 80s and 90s, and it didn't do anything, But I go on YouTube and I try to listen to, what's his name, JC, 99 Problems, and most of the time I find the beeped version, when the bitch ain't one, because it's not allowed to say bitch.
Yeah, I think those are two different things. I'm still kind of observing and studying the situation. The early censorship, which came from the Christian Coalition in the United States, I wouldn't call that cancel culture. I think that was just fucking ridiculous.
Fanatics.
Attempt the same people that were burning witches in Salem, the same people that said, like, video games are the devil, rock and roll is the devil, everything is the devil, trans is the devil. These people, like every generation, something is the devil, something needs to be dealt with. It's never the devil, and it's never dealt with. And fuck those people. Cancel culture now, in my opinion, is it's evolving. And I'm hesitant, but inclined to call it consequence culture. it's not cancel culture. It's not that that let's say that that's a kind of a blowback for however many years. Let's take one thing in particular, the harassment and sexual abuse of women in the artistic industry, which is a real thing. And then finally a woman goes, fuck you. And then there's consequences for people that did that. I'm completely for that. I think that's brilliant. But in the in that context where suddenly the oppressed have a voice and they have power and they express that power that they've never had before, I imagine there's going to be a lot of other people that get caught up in that wave. Before there is going to be an equalization, there's going to be a lot of casualties, some guilty, some not.
Yeah.
And again, I'm still kind of assessing my opinion on the things. I'm taking from an individual situation at a time. I'm actually happy that there's going to be some accountability, that there's some equalization. It's not just women, it's minorities in the United States, it's the Black community that are finding a voice. I think that's a beautiful thing. I hardly support that. Now, when we talk about Dave Mustaine's bass player, I don't know all of the details there, but it sounds to me like, from the evidence that I've seen so far, that maybe he's just an innocent guy that got caught up in that wave. I don't know. I don't know all the details.
Yeah, and there is always, I mean, in every transformation and change of society, there's always going to be collateral damage. That's for sure. But what I mean, I'm a lawyer by education, and we were taught in law school that the justice is blind and there is due process. People get to be investigated, trialed, and so on. And what happens now is that the consequences of a possible wrongdoing, you actually get them served before even you've been taken to the police, if you're going to be taken to the police. And I have a hard time dealing with that. Maybe it's just because of my law degree, you know what I mean, like my thinking process. But I always think, if this was my dad or my brother or my sister or whomever it is that is being accused of something and then being in some way executed publicly or deplatformed or pushed out to the edges, I don't know. I mean, we've been taught to forgive, to give a second chance, to, I'm not saying that if someone is a rapist, then send them to jail and keep them there for a long time. And the same if they kill someone or whatever it is that they do. But just based on hearsay, it's a tricky. I think we are on a slippery slope. But anyway, I mean, that's a subject for a 5-hour.
Yeah, I agree with you in theory, but I mean, if let's say you have a bully who's been bullying a person or a class of people for a long time, and suddenly they start punching back, and that bully goes, "Oh, I'm the victim." That is something that actually happens quite a bit with the Christians in the United States, for example. As soon as gay people want equal rights, oh, you're oppressing my religion. These people are crying victim when they're absolutely not victims. And that the consequence of like the karma, as it were, can be ugly. Look, if you put me into that situation where I have to fight back, I'm going to fight back. I'm not going to fight back fair. I'm angry. I'm going to fight back with some fucking, and I'm going to use whatever fucking tool there is. If you hit me with a stick, I'm going to drive a tank over you. Is that right? No, according to the law, according to the eyes of justice, absolutely not. But is it ridiculous? I don't think so.
No. I mean, I can understand the motives, and I think in that sense, I mean, I totally agree with you when it comes to kind of a greater good of a larger group of people or a group of oppressed people or something like that. Then I'm all for it. I'm more thinking that okay, if we want to solve these things on Twitter and Instagram, let's just then save ourselves the cost of the justice system, because we're obviously the consequence of being sentenced for, I don't know, whatever it would be, like a female teacher is accused of flirting with a male student. If that gets settled on social media and in the public eye, then her career is over. And when it finally comes to being investigated and trialed, no one cares about the result. She's going to be out of a job, has no way back. It's just, I don't know. I think when I see those individuals, I'm totally, gay rights. Yeah, give them all the rights that they want, all of them, because they're not taking from anybody else. That's not at the expense of anyone. If a Christian thinks that's because some people want to be gay is a oppression of their religion, it's just stupidity. They need to be rehabilitated, But it's the other thing that I'm talking about. But I think, yeah, we
I agree. There are some absolutely there are some unfair things that have happened, but in a way where let's say Donald Trump has been deplatformed because he's a miserable cunt, and that a lot of people have been tangibly hurt because of his words. That motherfucker somehow being equated with this innocent school teacher, where he's able to say, see, this innocent person was damaged by this movement. And that in some way I am equated with that. No, he just had consequences for being a cunt. This school teacher, yeah, that sucks. It's unfortunate. But they're not the same thing. They're not even remotely the same thing.
No, I know. And I think, but I mean, on the other hand, that's again the lawyer in me speaking. I mean, to remove a democratically elected president of any country from social media it's happened. I mean, they wouldn't even take the guy in North Korea off social media. They wouldn't take Lukashenko in Belarus off social media. But Geoff, this is a can of worms.
Oh, we should get like 4 or 5 opposing viewpoints and have another podcast.
Yeah. Anyway, so 3 best guitar players of all time.
Oh, that's a tough one. My father took me to see Andres Segovia when I was 13, I think. Andres Segovia was the first guitar player to arrange entire symphonies into this one instrument and present them as a whole, and actually turned the guitar into the serious instrument that it is. My understanding. In a classical sense, I mean, there were other like blues guitar players that were long before him. That's a tough question. I really loved Eddie Van Halen's playing. I always wished that I could hear him play something without the constraints of pop music or record companies. I wanted to hear him jam with like Stevie Wonder, for example.
Yeah.
That would have been divine.
Yeah, that would have been a good mix, actually.
Who else? That's a tough question because, I mean, Satriani is brilliant, but is he more brilliant than Jimi Hendrix? I don't know. Jimi Hendrix is...
Jimi Hendrix had this groove. I mean, Eric Clapton as well, somehow. I mean, there's a lot of those guys that had some magic.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Jimi Hendrix on that. And Satriani, if he heard me say that, he would probably agree. So that's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, you're working on that album. Is that because I actually interviewed your girlfriend earlier, Dashi Stardust, and she's a musician as well, extremely talented, great voice. Check her out as well, guys. And is that the album that you're working on? That's the corporate. She's with you on that one. Or is that a separate project?
No. I'm working on my own album, just on my own. Sometimes she helps me with some background vocals or something. Yeah. But we're doing her own album as a separate thing.
Yeah.
But that's a exploratory thing. Dashi is, I think she's brilliant, but Dashi has this journey that she needs to take where she needs to discover how good she is, because she doesn't know it yet. She doesn't realize how good she is. And
I think she said the same. She said that my boyfriend keeps telling me that I'm better than I think I am. I think she said those exact words.
There's something in her, an emotional barrier that I think she eventually, when she passes it, that she's going to shine. I think the world is going to know her name. I think she's absolutely amazing. She's brilliant. And for somebody who's not an English native speaker, her poetry is fantastic. She sings in English, and her lyrics are great, and they're emotional. Her melodies, she absolutely brilliant.
So you're working on those two,
and
I think that's, guys. I mean, so I really want people to check you out, so that they can find you on YouTube. That's Geoff Tyson, Geoff
Tyson.
Yeah, the Tyson, kind of like Mike Tyson. And you're on SoundCloud as well, right?
Actually, I'm not really sure, but
and then there's Spotify. You can find it on Spotify.
Yeah, Spotify, all the digital outlets, iTunes, all that stuff. If you want a physical copy, I've got vinyls and CDs at my website, geofftyson.com. And I don't know. I think
and there's an Instagram, there's a Facebook page.
Yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere that you Pornhub, you know.
Yeah. That's where what's his name? Gregory.
Oh, Gregory Dark, yeah.
Gregory Dark. Produced by Gregory Dark.
Yeah.
Guys, definitely check Geoff out and his stuff and good solid rock music and actually it's also worth it to go into YouTube and check out T-Right. That's T/right or slash. There's slash, right?
Dash.
T-Right. And there are also some funny videos of Geoff topless in the studio and being a rock star as a very young man. Follow the show. That's Facebook, The Bunker, How the Hell Did We End Up Here? Instagram, Bunker Prague. And if you like looking at me and Geoff on a static photo on YouTube, then I have a YouTube channel now, The Bunker, How the Hell Did We End Up Here? So I upload all the episodes there. And found out that people actually do listen to podcasts on YouTube when they're at work. So if you're one of those, then you can just plug it in there and listen. I think that's kind of it, yeah. COVID is ending, Geoff. When are you going to play your first concert?
It's first opportunity that is given to me. I'm ready to go.
And I'm going to be there. I hope it's not going to be somewhere in China or something, but somewhere a little bit closer.
Well, I don't know. If I have to go back to the street corners and cafes, I'll do that.
Yeah. Guys, thanks for listening. Geoff, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.